Hey everyone, thanks for tuning back in to mattsteinway.com. We're going to talk about price reductions today. Now, price reductions are very fun, I know they are, but price reductions are something that in this marketplace, in a marketplace that's declining, they're necessary. They are necessary because the marketplace is constantly moving. Now, what's the way to go about price reductions? This is like an ongoing process, because when you price a home and it goes on the market, the owners start planning around that price. So it's not like they don't want to reduce price, but they start planning around that figure. What are they going to do with it? What are they going to buy? And their life starts fitting around that. That's why price reductions are so awkward to get sometimes, because especially when a few weeks goes by, it's been on the market, they've had a few people come through their home, there's always that element of hope. Will someone really like it and pay their price? Because the owner knows all the great things about the home because they live there. They're coming from an emotional perspective, whereas us as agents a lot of the time come from a logical perspective. And so does the marketplace to begin with. So there's a mismatch in perception. That's why price reduction is a little bit awkward sometimes. So what's the best way to do it? Now, I think the best way is to cover it first off when we'll price the home right in the beginning. Price it with comparable evidence, work through the likely price scenarios, and help. I always say to owners, price is subjective. Until you, everyone thinks every property is worth a different amount of money, and I'll ask them what they think it's worth, and I tell them what I think it's worth as well, usually first, the other way around. And then a buyer might think it's a different amount. So it's really managing everyone's perception to develop price. And when the emotions come into play, so when somebody moves to the emotional perspective, that's when price starts to be built. But the first part is getting somebody to suit the home. That's when they move, when they're interested in a property, that's when they move from the logical perspective to the emotional perspective. That's the first part of the equation. When I talk about that, and I spend a bit of time talking about price with owners in their homes when I'm listing it, I don't try and move off of it very quickly, because it's very important to use as some sort of springboard or a foundation for the sales process. Because sometimes you might say, I think it's worth this, and you get it wrong. Like we've all got it wrong many times. You get it wrong. But you might say it's worth this to an owner. Yeah, I think it's worth that amount. Great, they list with you, out you go. And 3 weeks later it's not happening. And you go back and say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, the response hasn't been that great. I think we're a little high in price, blah, blah, blah. They won't listen to you. They'll say, well, you said it's worth that amount. That's what you told us. Even though that's what they wanted before, they forget that. They'll say, that's what you told us. And rightly so to some degree, because you did tell them that. So you've got to have, I think, a couple of different points around price. Let's try for this. That's if you want to go private treaty, whether it's auction, private treaty, whatever it may be. But let's sort of just talk about private treaty for the moment. It's just easier. So, you might want to explore this price. If that's what they want and you're happy to take it on, you might want to explore that price. That's a decision for you guys. And this isn't a video on pricing a home. All right, it's a totally different video. This is more just saying, okay, you've taken one on, you've gone to market, it's at a price, and maybe you realize that it's just a little bit too dear. Some owners will work with you if they're motivated and they want to sell, and they can see that it's not gelling with the marketplace. But some owners won't. Some owners they still want to explore what's out there. Now, owners aren't real estate agents either, so our time frames are different to owners. They put their home on the market. It's quite exciting for the first month. To us, after a month, well, hopefully it should be sold. But if it's not, we know that the marketplace is going to really start to drift off. But owners don't. They just think more people are going to keep coming through. So this is where the misalignment can happen a lot of the time, because to them it's like their home. They really want to see who's in the market, and someone will probably come along and fall in love with it. Whereas we know, as it's there for longer, less people will come through, and if anything, their price will get further and further away from where it needs to be. Not every time, but a lot of the time. So what do you do? What do you do? Well, for a start, don't be afraid to say what you think it's worth. But if you want to explore what an owner wants also, that's your decision. And come up with something in your listing presentation that covers both of those bases. If they're motivated, they're willing to market, and you like the people, that's a reason to take it on and see who is in the marketplace. But maybe set a parameter. You might want to say, look, let's see how we go for the first 7 days or 10 days, but then I want to sit with you then. And if there's no offers and we don't have the right level of interest on the property, I want to assess that feedback because it's valuable feedback. And if we do need to redirect, I want you to be open to hearing my recommendations, and let's work out how can we get it sold within the next week or two after that. Because all homes should be sold within 30 days if they're priced correctly. Would that be okay with you? Sure. Something like that. You might just want to come up with something that works for you, where you're working in little spans of time, you know, and the owners know that. Whereas if you let it drift on for 3 and 4 weeks and then ask for a price reduction, a lot of the time they won't work with you, because it's like they just want to, or sorry, sometimes they will, but a lot of the time they just want to just keep going and see how it is. But in there, like you might start selling it in the beginning, a week or two goes past, the interest starts to drop off, you're focused on other things, other listings and stuff that's coming on. Week 3, week 4 comes along, and you haven't really given them as much service as you should sometimes, because nothing's happening on their home. Not that you don't want to, just nothing's happening on it. And then you go over after 30 days and want to reduce the price, where there's been a bit of a disconnect in the energy around where they're going, and sometimes they just won't listen to you. Because there's 2 things that will help people reduce price if they need to. It's service. So your service needs to be extraordinary. So they can't look at you and blame you for the property not selling. And the other thing is evidence. You've got to be constantly giving them evidence of what's happening in the marketplace, so they feel that there's a reason that you're giving them that guidance. If they don't have any evidence to go off, and your service levels have been a bit ordinary, especially after those first exciting couple of weeks, they probably won't reduce their price and they won't listen to you. And they'll just say, no, that's fine, we're happy just to sit and see what happens. The other thing that comes into play there as well is their motivation. So it's not, the marketplace at the moment isn't, I'll sell if I get this price. The marketplace at the moment is, okay, I'd like to sell and I'd like to understand where the marketplace is, and then hopefully I'll sell. It's not, I want to get that price type of market. It's just not. So unmotivated sellers right now are probably not the best people to work with. So let's leave those aside for a minute. I'm not saying don't work with them. I'm just saying in this video, let's just move them aside for a minute and talk about motivated sellers. People who actually want to sell their house. Service and evidence. You have to service them better than anything else in this marketplace right now, to make sure that when you're dealing with them, they feel like you're actually trying to get the house sold. If you're doing everything you can, they won't look at you and say, hey, I don't think you're working hard enough, or I don't think you're bringing enough buyers through, or I don't think you're doing this, or whatever it may be. You've got to be speaking to them daily, every day. Where are we at? Where are we at? What's going on? This is where we're going. Blah, blah, blah. You have to do that all the time. That will eliminate the service thing, the evidence. Anything that sells or anything that comes on the market around them, email it to them, show them, tell them, talk to them about it. If you do that constantly, they will work with you most of the time. Most of the time. And if they don't, they're probably not really that serious about selling. In this marketplace, work with as many people as you can who actually want to sell their house. And you'll find that in any climate really, that people will attract a sale, because everything is physically being done. They want to sell, you want them to sell, you're giving them the right amount of service, they've got all the knowledge, and they're looking at you for guidance. And if you can physically get that to happen, the transaction will come at some point in time. Anyway, I hope you got a little bit out of this video. Question of the day: what's the worst job you've ever had to do? Love to hear about it. Let us know. Write your comments in the post. Thanks for tuning in and helping make this real estate world a much better place. Look forward to seeing you on the next video.